Okay, so Serge, we live in an era where toxic masculinity has become a bit of a buzz term in terms of the damage and the harm that is coming to both men and women because of a model of masculinity that is not only outmoded, but it is dangerous to the health and well-being of men and women. For 50 years, we have stuck to this model that hasn't worked. You know, domestic violence rates are still atrocious, but nobody's actually going underneath and breaking the mold. And yet here you are throwing out the model of gender in the way that you talk about the energetic hermaphrodite, which is what I want you to expand on for the audience, because it's a concept that I'd never heard of before, but it's actually quite simple and quite beautiful and quite obvious. That balance between the male and female aspect of ourselves is key to addressing this toxic state of affairs that we found ourselves in, isn't it?
Let's clarify the topic first. What it is it's a state of being, and we need to grasp the fact that we are both male and female. And if you understand the true science of reincarnation, we can be man and women. And just because I'm in a man's body doesn't mean I don't have equally the sensitivity of a woman built into me. Society looks at me from a physical point of view, and my delineation tells me that I'm a man, and I have all the features that qualify me as a man. But I know deep within me that I have all the features that qualify me as a woman also. So we need to throw out the model and say, okay, there is a delineation that we have to respect, but there's also an energetic factor that is far more honoring about the wholesomeness of the human being. And we haven't explored the wholesomeness value of the human being with regards to making love. So you can make love as a man, but also equally be surrendered to yourself as a woman, and access that energetic aspect of you, and therefore you get what's called the energetic hermaphrodite. In other words, you're accessing elements of you as a man that are equally the same for a woman. So you can have a climax, or what we call ejaculation, or an orgasm that is spontaneously equal. In other words, you can climax as a woman and as a man in a man's body, but so can women. And I'm not sure how it happens in a woman's body, because I'm not in one in this life, but I'm sure that the woman will climax in a way when she's connected to her male body, where she will feel very, very powerful, but also equally surrendered. What a lot of women fight is that surrender aspect of the orgasm, and they're looking for a more mechanical aspect of an orgasm, but not the deep surrender of the orgasm, where they essentially are falling deep into their own self-adoration as a result of opening up to that nakedness and allowing themselves to go there from the point of view of that surrender. So in effect, a woman's orgasm is really an orgasm with herself, with her partner saying, go there, honey, I'm with you all the way. And it's almost like a one-way trip where the two of you are going deep into the woman's orgasm, and then she has the orgasm, and then the man can then come back to himself and focus on himself and go there and join her.
That's really beautiful, because I know that, you know, a lot of women that I've spoken to have experienced that when they have a partner that actually wants them to surrender and supports them to surrender and adores them so much and adores them going into that inward surrender and feeling that joy in themselves, that's when they do go there. That's when, because for a lot of women it's quite difficult to reach orgasm, that self-adoration factor, and allowing someone to see you in that self-adoration is something that seems to be quite a challenge for a lot of women.
Look, this isn't a sex education interview. I hope it's not. Well, it's definitely not for me, and I know it's not for you. we've got to get this comparison and competition issue out of the way. The fact is, everyone can have a very simple mechanical form of our orgasm. It's not very hard. You don't even need a partner, and we call that masturbation. So let's get that out of the way. But how rich is it to be able to be surrendered and bypass the level of that mechanical blessing that the body offers us, and make it a much more rich and wholesome experience between two people that are honoring themselves not only in that moment, but how they are living with each other on an everyday basis. So the key for that is there's no way a man is going to surrender to tenderness, to his own tenderness, if he fears any form of rejection. So if he's getting rejected during the day, if he's not performing, if he thinks he has to provide to win the woman over, that's not a surrender for the man. He's going to want to just keep providing and keep performing rather than surrendering. But so too does a woman. If she's not adored, how does she get over her lack of self-worth issue? How does she get over that issue of her body issue and that inability to get truly naked, which is the full transparency of who she truly is, and handing that over to the man and saying, this is the real beauty of me, well beyond what your eyes can see. So it's a beautiful coming together of that. But this is more wholesome interview, the wholesomeness of who we are, and not just sex education.
That's beautiful, because when we talk let's talk a bit about, if we can track back to the function aspect of sex, like even the greatest sex on earth is not it, because if we can function in such a way that we can get each other off with a mechanical aspect of having the orgasm, that's still an individual act, isn't it? It's like you getting off with the aid of another person, and in some instances it may not even be another person. So there's just a transactional of getting each other off. But you're talking about a much greater richness and a wholesomeness. And when we take the conversation there, when we take it to that richness, sex no longer becomes a dirty word. It actually changes its parameters completely. And I would posit that that's why you have such an ease with talking about this, because it's not a taking of something from another, and it's actually a richness and a coming together. And that is the difference between sex and making love in a nutshell. It's going to be transactional, but it's whether you're coming together and celebrating something that's already lived, or whether it's a taking of another thing. So I want to talk about another big topic, and that is energetic rape, because I'm not talking about, in this instance, and I'll elucidate for the audience here because this is a sensitive topic, I'm not talking about rape as in non-consensual sex, the abhorrence of that, of someone being raped. I'm talking about energetic rape, and we talk about the rape of the land, where, for instance, the land gets pillaged of all its natural resources and left lesser for the experience. And so when you talk about energetic rape, which is a phrase that you've coined, you talk about consensual sex between two people, but where there's a taking of something for that getting off that doesn't leave the other person in the richness that they are. Can you talk a bit about energetic rape and what it means?
You're asking me to talk a bit about everything you've just covered. That's an amazing, wide discussion. There's so much that you have opened the door to here. Let's take it back to the functional aspect just a little bit more. Sex has never been a dirty word. To me, to say sex is a dirty word or the dirtiness of sex, that's actually ignoring the fact. For men, it's been a quest. It's a quest. It's a conquest. And it's not a dirty word, it's a conquest. And when you're teenage boys, it's all about the conquest. And I'm no saint. I'm part of that model of society that corrupts the young guy, the young man, and makes him out to be a hero if he has that quest. And you basically go after the girl that will give it. And it's a horrible start, but you don't know it's horrible. When you're a teenage boy, you glorify the woman because she's willing to go there, and you ignore the ones that are frigid. And we have that horrible word for frigid. But the frigid girl may just be the most explosive, the most tender, the most amazing, the most depth-defying sexual experience on the level of making love, because she's willing to be sensitive and open to you, but she's not willing to give herself away so cheaply. So we're robbed of these experiences simply because there is this horrible model out there that's basically making sex very, very cheap and easy, and they're the ones that are mystifying. It's a mystification of sex by making it simply just a function, when in fact the demystification of it is to bring in the wholesome factor. And so when you talk about this transactional aspect of it, it can be transactional on a functional level, or it can be transactional on an energetic level, and therefore the wholesomeness of your entire being, which is immortal. And so if you've got two immortals coming together, what would that look like? What is that sexual experience? You know, it's like the gods making love. That's literally the myth of the gods making love. Well, we're all human beings. We are also immortal. So we are making love. We are the gods making love. So why aren't we celebrating that? It's a very beautiful subject. It's also an amazing science. Now, to come back on the energetic rape aspect, you can be very courteous, polite. You can be consensual, and you can still energetically rape someone if deep down you are using them to basically get yourself relieved, or to prove to yourself that you're a provider from a man's point of view, or the more subtle aspects of passive abuse where a woman is using sex to basically succumb the man or please him just to get what she wants. And I'm a little bit stereotypical here, but there's sort of the roles that we are covering. So energetic rape occurs whenever you are not truly wholesome and respectful of the wholesomeness of the other person, and that the two of you are not in that mutual agreement coming together. So there is a level of energetic disrespect as well. So and I call that energetic rape. It's a disrespect.
And it's like a robbing of the other person for something. Both sides. This is not a vilification of the man in any sense of the word, because the woman can be manipulative to get what she wants through sex, but equally she can go into the relief of the sexual act and get relief from that, and then be, you know, in the just the using of another person's body for their own gratification. I mean, this is kind of hard to talk about, because when you've got, well, it is and it isn't, but it might be hard for people at home to hear, because if you've got perfectly functional sex, then you don't want to hear that it's not it, but you kind of do, because you know that it's not as rich as it could be, even if everything is working in terms of everyone has an orgasm, everyone's happy at the end of the day, but without that richness, it doesn't have that same depth of quality. And so what you're bringing in with talking about energetic rape is actually asking us to go to a much greater level of responsibility with how we hold another being, not another man or another woman, but the richness of another being. And that's why I say this just blows the lid on gender definitions as we know them, because you're obliterating the idea that we champion the performance in the man, the provider in the man, because we've seen a porn industry explode based on the stereotype of the man in there being all about performance, function, and, you know, being able to have the hardest erection and the longest erection, you know, whatever it is. And we've seen porn industry explode on women submitting themselves to men's pleasure for the video. But yet we can't even demonise the porn industry, can we? Because what we're seeing there is the end result of demand. And you've talked about this in detail in other episodes, that you can't just blame the drug dealer or the tobacco company or the sugar industry, because that industry wouldn't exist without an absolute demand for it to be there as a form of the human being seeking relief.
Yeah, the supplier is not the villain, it's the demand that's the villain. And look, it's not about criticizing anyone, and everyone's free to switch off this interview. They don't need to look at it if they're not turned on by it, so to speak. Let's understand the fact that we're robbed of a richer aspect of making love, but we're not robbed of that at the making love or the sexual point. We're robbed of that at the livingness point. In other words, we're not living our immortality. We're not living our wholesomeness. And if we're not living that, how can we segregate an aspect of our life and just bring it all together in that moment? And we're all victims of the model. We're all nobody is free of that model until such time that they are willing to admit that it's not enough. And look, it may sound a little bit biased, but to me, it's up to the woman to make the call and to say, do you know what? The truth is, sex is not enough. It's never been enough. And there's a level of submission I enjoy, there's a level of intimacy I enjoy, but the truth is, my body knows there's more to this. And can we explore it? But the difficult part of presenting that would be to not make sure the man is not rejected, but included as an equal in that discussion, to say, but surely you can also feel that there's more. If you remove that provider aspect, there has to be something in your body that can register that there's a depth that you're not accessing. So let's go there.
That's beautiful, because when a man does decide to go there, when a woman says there is more, it's equally beneficial to the man who has been under that construct of having to perform, having to provide, which is also an incarceration. I'd like to bust the myth of the feminization of men.
It's a castration as well.
Yeah. that when we talk about a man surrendering and a man going deeper into his female aspect to bring that balance back and to let go of that provider performance aspect and actually surrender, there's a misinterpretation of this, that it is the feminization of men. Now that is problematic on a number of levels. One is the first layer is that it denigrates the woman in saying that it would be a problem that the man is feminized. But let's go deeper than that, because what if what the reaction to that actually is when we have seen in the past the feminization of men, that is men turning to feminine qualities that are actually in themselves toxic feminine, because they're part of an aberrant model, because the female isn't the man isn't unique in having toxic masculinity. We see toxic femininity as well. And, this is why the snag never really took off, because there was something sappy about it. The sensitive New Age guy became the qualities of submissiveness and in the untrue sense of that word, and more pathetic, and in that I've seen men be so wary of being aggressors that they actually revert and contract back from any expression of power and masculinity, and that is not a balance. That is actually a reaction that's just swinging the pendulum the other way, isn't it? So when we talk, there's the feminization of men, we can throw that out when we look at actually the balance between femaleness and maleness looks very different, because the female is very empowered. The female in her essence, not under toxic femininity, is very, very empowered, very sacred, very deep, and there is nothing that men have to fear about going there. You know, like, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this, you know, this freak out that this means, you know, you talking about orgasming as a woman, for example, you can feel the freak out that is like you're feminizing yourself or something like that, but you don't talk about it like that, and that's because you've thrown out the model.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to share the fact of my energetic hermaphrodite type of orgasm. So what? But I'm not throwing it out there to say, ha ha, look at me, look at what I can do. I'm sharing what is possible from the point of view of what I've been teaching for 19 years. It's nothing new and nothing, you know, out of the ordinary for me. It's very, very natural. But we're covering here something that touches on the toxic masculinity and also toxic femininity, because why is sensitivity pathetic? Why is being tender pathetic? Who said it wasn't robust and powerful? Sensitivity is an enormous form of authority that allows you to express to a depth that has never been known before. And it's almost like you have the backing of the universe to express that. In that moment, there is no way with the universe all around you, you feel pathetic. You feel huge, you feel big, you feel supported. There's an authority. It's like the ages are with you, or the agelessness is with you in that expression. And we intellectualize life and place words on it. So for example, I can reduce myself and say that I'm sensitive and put the word sensitivity to that. But that's not being sensitive. Sensitive is that ability to have authority in expressing exactly your intimacy and your transparency. And so that's what a sensitivity is. It's allowing yourself to express without any constraint exactly how you truly feel, but not from the point of view of complaining, but the point of view of showing how amazing you are. So sensitivity is about expressing how amazing you are, not by telling someone all your problems.
How on earth would we think that sensitivity is a weakness when the word itself talks about the ability to sense everything? Like, surely that's a superpower. Surely the person that's shut down and trying to deny their sensitivity is the person that's ignorant and boxed, you know, is attempting to shut out something that is quite powerful and much greater.
Yeah, look, sensitivity gives me access to getting to know someone at such a deep level that allows me to be very authoritative on them in a glorious way. So not authoritative as in an imposition, but you can look someone in the eye and just say something about them that confirms them beyond human. It's a universal confirmation of something that they are and belong to. How beautiful is that? That's what sensitivity gives us. It's a huge empowerment.
And without it, you don't clock those details and that depth of a person to be able to read it back to them.
If I'm not sensitive, then I have to be turned on by your hair, by your eyes, by your features, by you saying something, by you performing. It comes back to function.
Right.
If I become sensitive, then I'm turned on or attracted to enjoying and become in union with aspects of you that I know I equally have, because we're all universal.
So just there, you busted the whole myth of men need to be visually stimulated, because what you've actually revealed is that it's a shutting down of sensitivity that incarcerates men into that mode that it has to be a certain aesthetic that turns them on.
Oh, visual stimulation, I mean, gosh, that is so shallow. Visual stimulation is just shallow. Once you get to connect to the sensitivity, you connect to your own sensitivity, you're able to connect to aspects of you that you will bring to the fore that you normally would not. So there's no reservation. How much empowerment. That takes a lot of courage. I don't need to be the greatest alpha male. I can be the most sensitive man and still be robust and vigor and very manly when it comes to that, because I'm showing aspects of me that a lot of men would dare not show. But that gives you access to appreciating your partner at also levels. So you get turned on by a movement that is not physical, it's registered at the quality of the grace. So you can get turned on by grace, you can get turned on by just the way something, I can't even describe it, there's no words for it because it's so
out of this dimension.
So huge and so universal. But it's very, very beautiful, and that has its own level of climax, because then you it's almost like seeing the universe in this form, and you appreciate the form because of its universality, and you make love to that form, knowing that you are in union with the universality of that person, and that person's reach deep into whatever depth of the universe they're allowing themselves to get into. How can that be reduced to physical features, when it's the physical features are part of it, obviously, and they play an important part. Not so much that they are physical features, but if a person has let their body go, that's not attractive. But that's because they are abusive of their own body, not because the features are not abusive. So a person is sensing on the lack of adoration and lack of self-worth, a lack of, or letting themselves go. But it's not so much that you're going to be turned on by a physical feature when a person is universal. It's just that the physical feature represents that universality, and that to me is it's a mountain of turn on. It's very, very beautiful.
And it does become very physically beautiful by virtue of that universal essence being expressed through the body. So it's not like it's not beautiful, but it doesn't constrain itself to typical aesthetics. And I want to go back to that point about letting the body go, and why that then appears unattractive. And there's a beauty in what you're saying insofar as it frees anybody that has body issues to understand that if they're loading their body with self-loathing, then yes, they're not going to like what they see in the mirror. But at any one point, you can start adoring yourself, and that will transform the angles. It's not about size or shape or anything. It's actually about the energetic quality that you're pouring into yourself or letting come out in terms of that adoration. Because I've had the experience of being, having much more weight than I do now, of feeling quite bloated and feeling like my body wasn't my own, because it had taken on abuses, self-loathing that I was carrying around, other people's baggage. So when you look in the mirror, you reject yourself because you don't like seeing that. But there is a process back out of that, isn't there? There's a
and that transfers. If you're having body issues, that transfers to your partner, and they can feel that. You can't avoid that. So that's an important point, and every person should look at that individually. But it's also a couple's duty to bring the adoration back into the marriage, be it same sex or opposite sex. It doesn't matter. They need to work together. It shouldn't just be the woman's job to go out there and lose weight and get herself in shape again. And it isn't for the man to do that. Or to do that, we are to come together and work at it together, because we're going to be in the celebration of that end result. Not because it needs to be a certain shape, but because we have to recognize that we have let ourselves go, and it's simply not fair to the other partner to let yourself go. Because if you let yourself go, it's almost like saying, well, I don't care about you either. I don't care about me, but I don't actually care about you, because
this is the body you're bringing to the relationship.
Exactly.
Are you bringing a body of love, or are you bringing a body of loathing? That's something that is going to be put into the relationship. And so you can feel the depth of responsibility that we have not to indulge anymore. I can particularly talk as women. There's a lot of indulgence in self-loathing, and it's actually becomes then a rejection of the man. Because if you're walking around in that self-loathing, then that's just saying, back off. I hate myself, back off. So there's a transference that does affect the relationship, isn't there?
Look, what you're talking about here, it basically says, and it goes back to what we said earlier in the interview and the previous episode, and that this discussion is a wholesome subject and it can't be isolated into 3 letters, sex. This is a wholesome subject that is about sharing intimate moments physically, but also sharing with each other, intimate daily life. It's a 24/7 level of intimacy that we need to develop. And it's not about saying we have the answer. It's about presenting the fact that this is a livingness that we've come together on, and we're sharing it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. If you think you've got your own success, that's cool, stick to it. And if it's not for you, switch off the camera and don't look at it again. And if you feel that it's got something in it, by all means, keep watching this episode. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, stay tuned for the next one because it's going to be a cracker.